Hi everyone, thanks for watching. I'm Louise from The Dusty Jacket. We have a wide selection of books today, from unlikely friendships and seeing into the future, to double crosses and new identities. So sit back, relax, while I give you 5 fiction books for adults. Let's get started. Our first book is The Girl She Used to Be by David Cristofano, which I rated 3 out of 5 stars. Melody Grace McCartney has been in the Witness Protection Program since she was 6. By the time she turned 13, Melody had already exhausted 6 identities. Now 26, she's about to be relocated again when she encounters Jonathan "Johnny" Bavaro, the son of the man who is the reason behind her seclusion.
You better stay away from him.
Johnny tells her that she is safe while she's with him, but after 20 years of hiding in the dark, can this man actually show Melody that it's safe to be in the light? The Girl She Used to Be is a prime example of when people make very, very, very bad choices.
Make good choices for once.
While the book starts off promising, with each chapter the ludicrous decisions pile up faster than a never-ending pasta bowl at Olive Garden.
Olive Garden.
Yeah.
And although we mourn Melody's loss of a normal childhood, her 20-year plight becomes a bit tedious and whiny as she is relocated for the gabillionth time due to boredom. It seems she gets a tad itchy at about the 18-month mark.
Boo-hoo, boo-hoo.
Sadly, Johnny doesn't come across as any more likable or sympathetic. His good intentions are clouded by a quick-trigger violent streak, and his optimism of his mafia family is ill-placed. All in all, this novel isn't the worst book I've ever read, but after an interesting enough start, it begins to fall apart about midway through and then just ends up in a tangled pile of spaghetti. Add in the fact that the actions and judgments of the book's 2 main characters make the story implausible, and we'll just skip the dessert and take the check.
Story check, please.
Book number 2 is Heft by Liz Moore, which I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Arthur Opp hasn't been weighed in years. Back then, he was 480 pounds, but he's probably between 500 and 600 pounds now. He lives in isolation in an aging yet expensive brownstone in Brooklyn and hasn't taught a college class in 18 years. Kel Keller is 17, athletic, and popular amongst his friends. He's a poor kid from Yonkers who attends an affluent school and dreams of playing professional baseball.
How can 2 fates be so different?
What these 2 very different people don't realize is that they have one thing in common: a woman by the name of Charlene Turner. Charlene is Kel's mother and Arthur's former student, and she is about to alter both their lives when she decides to pick up the phone and ask Arthur for a simple favor.
A favor, Jay, just a favor.
I really enjoyed this book and was impressed with Moore's proficiency at writing as both a middle-aged ex-professor struggling with obesity and as a teenage boy caught between the worlds of poverty and prosperity. The story moves along at a nice pace and rarely lags, even through multiple character flashbacks.
In the first 20 pages alone, I counted 3 flashbacks.
I was particularly fond of Arthur's maid Yolanda, who was the yin to his yang. We see a whole new side of Arthur when Yolanda's around, and that was a pleasure to experience. Despite the praise, I did have a few issues that prevented me from giving it a full 5-star rating.
It's always something, isn't it?
First was Moore's writing style when it came to Arthur's voice. She chose to flip back and forth between using an ampersand and the word and. I thought it was poor copy editing at first, but when it happened repeatedly, it kept me from totally immersing myself in Arthur's story, since I had to constantly decode such sentences as, "I read it twice," and then "I read it 3 more times." Another problem was the last part of the book. It was a beautifully written story, but the end seemed a bit off, so I ended up having more questions than answers. All in all, I loved Arthur and Kel's fearless honesty and enjoyed laughing and crying with both of them. The story offers up messages of hope, forgiveness, redemption, and second chances, and reminds us to never underestimate the impact of a seemingly simple act, like making a phone call or asking for help. Our third book is The Solace of Leaving Early by Haven Kimmel, which I rated 4 out of 5 stars. Langston Braverman is a graduate school dropout who's returned to her hometown of Huntington, Indiana to live with her parents. In her childhood attic bedroom, she imagines a very different life for herself. One filled with academia, garden tea parties, and tenure. Amos Townsend is a third-generation preacher whose inspiration to follow God came from a TV show he once watched while in college. Although Amos wants to give his life to help others, it is his own salvation he seeks. When two little girls are left orphaned by unimaginable circumstances, Langston and Amos must put aside their animosity toward each other to help these children find peace, normality, and love.
I think we can all be very happy here.
Kimmel is at her best when writing dialogue by incorporating subtle gestures, mid-sentence thought changes, and off-topic asides. She captures each character's unique essence and true personality. The conversations appear so spontaneous and genuine, the reader almost feels guilty of eavesdropping.
You've been listening in on our conversation.
The only downside with this book is that Kimmel made Langston a very unsympathetic woman who is extremely hard to connect with and oftentimes even tolerate. She comes across as elitist, self-absorbed, and immature, but her character is offset nicely by Amos's steadfast demeanor. Once you get past Langston's overbearing personality, as well as her mother's relentless role as enabler and apologist, you'll find yourself totally immersed in a story full of heart, hope, and second chances. Book number 4 is The Housekeeper and the Professor by Yoko Ogawa, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. By the time the Akebono housekeeping agency had sent her to work for the professor, his card had already amassed 9 blue stars, one for each time a housekeeper had to be replaced. If she failed, she would be the 10th star. The job seemed easy enough. Care for a man in his early 60s, work Monday to Friday from 11 to 7, prepare lunch and dinner, perform basic housekeeping, and do the shopping. The only catch? The man, a former math professor, has a memory that only lasts for 80 minutes.
Wrap your heads around the reality of that.
So begins a unique friendship that would start over every hour and 20 minutes. A relationship as mysterious, complex, and intricate as the numbers that filled the professor's life. Ogawa gives us a hauntingly beautiful story about kindness, loyalty, and friendship. Despite giving her characters no names except the housekeeper's son, who is nicknamed Root, these individuals still manage to leap off the page and burrow their way deep into your heart. Although the professor remains largely unaffected by the new memories and friendships he's made, when he becomes aware of his loss, you can feel the torment, anguish, and misery piercing his soul. Likewise, the housekeeper bears an equally heavy emotional burden as she lives each day with the realization that after 80 minutes, the professor will neither remember her nor miss her.
That's the saddest thing I've ever heard.
This book will tug on every single heartstring you possess, yet Ogawa still manages to give us a story filled with joy and hope. The only minor downside is that this book does go deep into the mathematical weeds on several occasions with lengthy explanations of various theorems, laws, and formulas. While the majority of us will tend to glaze over these facts,
well, I'm not very good at math. You lost me.
Math is the singular means which the professor has to communicate, so these enthusiastic explanations are easily forgiven. Our last book is Yesterday's Sun by Amanda Brooke, which I rated 5 out of 5 stars. Tom and Holly Corrigan had only been married for 2 years when they moved into the gatehouse that sat at the entrance of the once majestic Hardmanton Hall. Holly, an artist, instantly fell in love with the residence, despite its many years of abandonment and neglect.
I guess it's a fixer-upper.
One day while renovating, Holly uncovers a wooden box that contains a beautiful glass ball that is the missing top of the moon dial that sits in their garden. When she places the orb on the pedestal on a full moon night, she unwittingly activates a timepiece that shows her a future full of life and loss.
Titans! Back to the future!
When she shares her vision with Jocelyn, her new friend and the previous owner of the gatehouse, Holly learns the extensive truth behind the moon dial's power and realizes the terrible decision that she must now make that will not only affect her, but everyone she loves. Give me a book that begins with a partial peek at the ending, and I'm instantly invested in the characters and the story. This is what Brooke does in her prologue as we see Holly in bed, gently stroking her swollen belly as she looks at her sleeping husband and whispers, "You'll be angry with me for leaving you both. But eventually you'll understand. One day you'll look at our daughter and you'll know what I know. You'll know that she was worth the sacrifice. It is a deeply emotional, intimate, and heartbreaking moment that immediately connects you with Holly and her story that's just beginning to unfold for us. We know the journey with Holly won't be easy given the fact that we most likely know how her story will end, but we're fully committed now and determined to see this story through with her, no matter how painful it may be. Holly is a fractured and imperfect protagonist. Yes, her waffling between questions of should I or shouldn't I become a little tedious, but given her sudden and callous abandonment by her own mother, it's easy to understand the doubt and reservations she has about her own maternal abilities. If you lead by example, then Holly is doomed.
Sorry to hear that.
Yesterday's sun will keep you engrossed, guessing, and second-guessing until the end, and reminds us how we shouldn't take anything for granted and how important it is to live in the now. American actor James Dean, who was only 24 when he died suddenly and tragically, said, "Dream as if you'll live forever, live as if you'll die today." Holly eventually understood this, and hopefully all of us won't need a moon dial to realize this as well. Well, that's it. We'll include a link to our Goodreads page in the comments section if you want to see the full review of any of these books. And if you enjoyed this video, please click on the like and subscribe buttons and make sure to hit the bell so that you're notified when new videos become available. Again, thanks for watching, and I look forward to bringing back some old titles so that you can make new memories, because any time is a good time to dust off a new favorite. Keep reading!